Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Sitivien ST999. So Sitivien is a relatively new company that is manufacturing knives in China. I don't know if they actually do it or if they're just using one of the other OEMs and then their brand is Sitivien. I honestly don't know. It's made very similarly to a lot of knives in this territory. Their pricing is really, really good. If you just go to, I'll have this knife and Sitivien knives in general linked down below. You can see what I'm talking about. But their main thing is they're so new that we're not seeing, the same pricing as a lot of other companies that are doing the same thing, right? You're not really paying for the brand or anything. So they have a lot of really good budget stuff and a lot of good premium stuff, but the designs have been kind of meh, which is fine. It's like, yeah, you're getting great materials for the money and you're getting nice quality. So they're just lacking in some, really, really interesting designs. And I thought that's probably how it's going to be until I handled this one. This is a really cool design. It's not like, it's not like nobody's ever created a knife that looks similar to this, but this was really good. And the price tag on it is also excellent. So I'll have this linked down below as well. Thanks so much to Sitivien for providing this knife for review. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and get a quick measurement of this guy. I actually don't know. My guess is it's about 8 inches, maybe a little shy. No, it's almost right on the money. 8 1/8. Blade length is coming in. Actually, we have to measure the cutting because the cutting edge goes past where the frame begins. So the blade length and cutting edge length are 3.75. That is insane. The ratios on this knife, the blade to handle ratio on this knife is amazing. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons. Up against the Ontario Rat Model 1, which is not here. There it is. I couldn't see it there for a second. Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2. I think we'll also put it up against, now that these are becoming a lot more popular, the CJRB Large Pyrite and the regular Pyrite. There we go. Maybe the Demco 80-20.5. And I think last but not least, we'll do the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, and the Benchmade Bug Out. A lot of people will say, why did you get rid of this knife as a size comparison? Why did you add this and take with this way? It's not permanent. I've got about 15 knives over to the right that may or may not get used as size comparison knives at any given moment. So just because, like, for example, today you didn't see the PM2 or Para 3, doesn't mean they're gone. It just means they're not being used right now. But taking the time to explain it is pointless because people are going to be confused, every single time that it happens. So anyways, let's do carry profile. So thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. It's about the same. This is contoured titanium, but it's about the same as the Para 3. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. This guy has a similar... The closed length is only a little bit longer than the Para 3, which is amazing. It's way smaller than the PM2. Nowhere near as tall as either, so that's cool. How's the action? None of the Sitivien knives that I've handled had bad action. They just didn't feel like this. This is really nice. Luxuriously smooth. Nice front flipper on this. The fuller could have been a little bit deeper. You can reverse flick it, but I can feel my fingernail dragging against it because it's pretty shallow, but you can absolutely get it. It's also low enough that you can wheel this thing out with ease, almost any part of the knife, right? While still, it doesn't have a light detent. I would just call it maybe medium. Medium light maybe I think might be fair. It's definitely not heavy, right? But the action is very, very good. The only thing I don't like is how thin this area is, and it doesn't look that bad. But in practice, that ledge is pretty sharp, and this little bit of titanium here, it gets pretty thin. So disengaging it over and over and over again, it's not a soft transition. They've almost done like this hollow scoop And so there's plenty of room to get in here, but it's just a little bit thin, right? It's not terrible, but it's something I wanted to point out. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'll get my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel, or in the pinned comment. I always forget to say that. Where are you? There we go. This is a T8. The pivot is absolutely a T8, and then all of the body screws are, and the pocket clip screw, they're all T6, which is, but there's only a couple, so no big deal. As long as you have the right tools and a place to put your hardware, you should be good to go. It's also, what was I going to say? There was something else I was going to say. Oh, well, one of the body screws is the pocket clip screw. So that's nice. Nice move there. Materials. We are looking at carbon fiber, titanium, and S35VN, which I think is just fine. I love S35VN. In fact, I prefer it to 20CV. 4.16 ounces, which is fine because we're looking at a 3.75 inch blade. So it's not perfect ratios, but it's still an impressive weight considering, the size of knife we're looking at, and that it's full titanium. So pretty good. Balance, for those who care. The balance is actually quite a ways back from the pivot. It's pretty butt heavy. You don't notice it very much. I can't say that it feels butt heavy, but the balance is not quite, near the pivot. So it might feel a little bit more butt heavy to some people. Let's go ahead and measure blade stock thickness, and then we can get into the meat and potatoes. Blade stock thickness of the ST999, which we're going to talk about that too. 125 thousandths, which is fine. That's about what I expected it to be. I can't stand the number and letter system when it comes to knives. It made it confusing when Zero Tolerance was a much bigger brand, right? And it's confusing when any other company does it now, right? I mean, this knife is easier to remember because it's the 999, right? But like the ST142 or the 649, like I can't, that system might be convenient for the manufacturer, like for sorting things. I don't know. But as a consumer, it sucks because we can never remember. Like people have such a hard time remembering this stuff. I think it's better, even if you have to recycle old knife names, right? Which, if you think that doesn't happen, you're living in a fantasy world, right? It's every name for a knife has been taken. I mean, that's fine. There's no reason that you can't call a knife the same thing, right? I mean, if somebody has a knife called the Reptile, which is a pretty lame name, there's no reason that another company can't be like, we also are calling our knife the Reptile. Yeah, it's fine. You can do that. It's still easier to remember than the, ST429. I just can't. There's the numbers and letters. It just drives me nuts. But okay, this is the 999, the ST999. It's a little easier to remember. And the fact that I like it better than anything else I've handled from them so far. There's really only a couple of things to complain about with this knife. And the number one thing is the branding, or the billboarding. Sorry. Excuse me. This is such a cool looking knife, and this logo right here, it just ruins it. It's not like, it makes me not want to buy it. No, but it just kills the aesthetic. This big Sitivien, man, you got it. You guys got to find another place to put that. Some logos look better than others, right? But all logos should be small, and they should not be out here, right? They should be teeny tiny little things that you tuck in to some corner of the knife that doesn't take away from the aesthetic. Same with this side. We don't need to print the name of the knife on it, ST999 and then S35VN. Honestly, the only thing that should be printed on the blade is S35VN, and it should be right down here in this teeny tiny little flat, right? And then maybe if you want to take your logo and turn it into something that you can put on a pivot, a lot of brands do that, and it makes it much easier to visually digest. This kills it for me. The big Sitivien logo on the blade. I just think that's the wrong place to put that. Outside of that, though, what we have here is a really awesome design. Because of the shape of the handle and the way that they have done the blade, that's what allows them to get so much blade and so much cutting edge tucked into this relatively compact package. On top of that, I'm really glad that they didn't do another blasted frame. Like everything that I see now is just blasted titanium. Yay. This is like a darker titanium, like a darker tumbled titanium with a little bit of reflectivity to it, and it looks good. All of the edges have been knocked down due to the tumbling process, and it really has this overall very high quality look and feel about it. It extends to the pocket clip, which is also really nice. Look how they did this contoured clip with a little space that's carved out in here. Really, really cool. Backspacer looks good too. Seating the hardware and overall fit and finish is excellent. This piece of carbon fiber, I have looked at all over, and you guys people are going to say, no, I can see voids. What you're actually seeing there is just spots in the carbon fiber that are reflecting light or not reflecting light perfectly at a certain angle to look like a void. But if you run your finger over this, at least this one it's two pieces of carbon fiber that are shred that appear to be voidless, which I don't think I've ever seen before. Maybe they just got lucky with this one. I don't know. Their inlay work is also spectacular. I mean, it really looks good. All of this just looks fantastic. Ergonomically, this is a very comfortable knife. It's not the most perfectly ergonomic thing that I've ever handled, but honestly, I would give it an A-. It feels good. The pocket clip is not a hot spot. It's nicely knocked down. It doesn't have some big stupid bill on the end of it. It really feels great. The overall look of the knife is nice too. I kind of like how this handle comes up and then it comes back down here and then it comes up. You know, I like that. It looks good, and it also creates meaningful lock-in. You can get right behind the edge. You got to be cognizant of it because you're pretty close. There's no jimping. I mean, there is, but it's for the front flipper, right? It's not really for locking in. Despite my terrible flips there, it actually does front flip just fine. There's no jimping out here, which is kind of a bummer, but okay. We got a little swedge right here, and we got a fuller right here, and it makes the blade look a little bit more interesting. It's, you know, we've seen it before. Other knife companies have done a similar blade shape, but it looks cool. And it would look a lot cooler without the Sitivien logo. The blade is finished very much the same as the titanium frame, and I think that's fine. It looks good. This is S35VN. They are almost certainly heat treating this the same way that the rest of the industry does, and that's 59 to 61, which is just fine for S35VN. We've got great edge retention. We've got great toughness for a stainless steel. We have a stainless steel, and in my experience, it's very easy to sharpen and touch up. Not as easy as something like 14C28N, but for a super steel, which this absolutely is, it's S35VN is absolutely still a super steel. Yeah, very much so. It's one of my favorite user steels ever. This blade shape or this geometry does allow it to get relatively thin down here. It's got a nice tip. It'll slice well. Depending on what you're cutting, some stuff might get caught in here, but this is a pretty shallow fuller. So, you know, as is the case, even with deep fullers, a paper towel is a good remedy for that, right? Don't cut into motor oil and then cut into cheese and then eat it, and you should probably, you will probably be okay. Outside of that, I don't know that there's much more I can say there. Everything just looks really, really good. They do have a lanyard thing back here. That's great. I prefer that they do it in the backspacer, because the alternative is putting a hole in the frame, and that's stupid. Number one, it's unsightly, and number two, nobody's really using lanyards anymore. I mean, some people do, but not very many. So putting it back here in the backspacer is a good idea. I love the mounting position of the pocket clip. It's just a bummer that they don't have a spot for lefties, right? I would like to see in the future with all companies, some sort of wraparound system where they can still do a milled clip, but it wraps around and sort of tucks into the butt of the frame, and then you could have it mounted on both sides that way. That way you're not having to carve out some unsightly spot on the knife to allow for a lefty mountable clip, but we're still getting that premium feel with the milled titanium clip. Obviously, this is a little bit tricky to do depending on the design, and in this case, we have inlays, which means there are pockets in the titanium that are milled to accept these inlays, and so they are left with even less room, which they don't have a lot anyway. So it might not be as easy as the way that I'm making it sound, right? But it would be nice, if lefties weren't left out. so often. In and out of the pocket, this thing's a breeze because we've got this sort of rounded area underneath the clip. The retention on the clip isn't insane, and we have a contoured smooth surface, so very easy in and out of the pocket. So this is a titanium frame lock, and it does have, sorry, let me get the flashlight out here. It does have a steel lock bar insert in there. Can we see it? Right. It's just tucked underneath the scale. I love how they've done this here. This is essentially, I mean, it's a frame lock and it's got overlays, but it's totally covered, almost like how a liner lock is covered. And that's nice because this has a lighter detent. It's got the thinner front flipper, and it's it's not a perfect dig at a fuller here. So it's nice to not have to worry about putting unnecessary pressure on that lock bar while you're flipping it. And it also looks nice. It doesn't look unfinished. Sometimes frame locks in general have a way of looking unfinished, some more than others. But this looks finished. It looks very purposefully designed. And I like that. There is a lock bar, there is a stop pin located back here with super deep shouldering. No blade play up, down, left, or right. This runs on bearings, but I feel like that was obvious. No pivot lash, very smooth, very consistent in here. And like I said, kind of a medium to medium light detent. I really wish, if that fuller was a little bit deeper, it just feels like I'm not getting the full amount of force from my finger, right? And this area right here, while it does work, the front flip's just fine, it's so narrow that it's not, and this area could have been a little bit taller, I think. It's just not the most satisfying front flip. But we're getting real nitpicky here because it does work and it feels really good. This is a $170 knife, which is just, I have no complaints about that at all. This is worth $170 all day. This is a really cool looking knife, really nice looking knife. It's executed very well. All the values there. Sitivien surprised me with this one. I really thought they were just going to be a basic company just pumping out just designs that were just kind of, just for a decent price. But no, there's a little bit more complexity with this one. So every now and then they've got a model that, I expect them to periodically pump out models that shine through and are a little bit more interesting. It's not the most unique thing I've ever seen. I just didn't expect to see something this nice. This one definitely stands out, and I feel like the whole 999 thing, I feel like they knew that too, or they intentionally went out of their way to make this one more special. I like this. I think if you're somebody who's looking for a knife in this general ballpark, this isn't a bad choice at all. The price is amazing. There's tons of stuff on the market right now that's built exactly the same way with exactly the same materials, and it's close to $300. So this is a very recommendable knife, and it's going to go on my most recommended knives playlist. Like I said, it'll be linked down below so you guys can check it out if you want to. Thanks again to Sitivien for sending this in. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.